everybody, we're live. Welcome into the Flippin' Hippos YouTube channel. Today is Friday, December 8th, and we are at an all-new time. I switched my time back to 5 p.m. to accommodate the peoples, according to the polls that I took. And with me today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Tiffy Pie. So I met Tiffany at Camp Listing Party in person for the first time. And she was excited. I was excited. Apparently, she had been watching my YouTube for a while. I had learned a lot about Poshmark from her on Instagram. So we were fangirling each other. It was a good time. And her husband's really great, too. He dressed up as Poindexter, a nerd. It was fun. So while we wait for some folks to come in, you guys, if you have questions, you know you can put them in the chat. Tiffany, I'll answer them. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask Tiffany some questions to fill in. Why don't you just start with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in reselling?
Of course. Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm super excited because like you said, I was totally fangirling over you. I was so terrified of List Perfectly and could not figure out how to do eBay, couldn't figure out how to do so many things. And then I found your channel and it had all these answers to all these questions that I was so thrilled about. And I would watch your videos and my husband started to know your voice. He was like, I know her now because you're always listening to her videos. So I resell primarily on Poshmark, but I have recently expanded with the help of List Perfectly to eBay, Mercari. And then because of Camp Listing Party, I'm now a style scout for Kidizen. So I'm very fortunate that they give me some opportunities with brands where they're giving me brand new brand merchandise from some big kid brands and some maternity brands as well. I live in Dallas, which I did not know I've California 35 years, moved here last year. Apparently Dallas is a hub for a ton of kids clothes. So I have access to warehouses and stuff here, which is pretty cool. But I've been reselling full-time since 2020 when I was laid off from my corporate job, which was a huge blessing. And then kind of started reselling when I was little for my uncle. So I would resell his toys for him that he collected. And then it was back in the day when you had to mail he'd take the pictures and he'd mail me the memory chip. And then I would have to put it in my computer. And so I guess I've been reselling since I was a little kid.
What was your corporate job?
So I was 11 years with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and the last 8, I was a corporate trainer. So I onboarded all of our new hires, did all of our training for anything from sexual harassment to teaching my managers how to be managers, things like that. I really, really loved my job, really loved the people I worked with, really did not enjoy my boss. So for the last 5 years, life was a struggle for me because my boss and I did not see eye to eye. And, they say your manager makes or breaks your work experience. And I really learned that to be true. And it was really hard. So I wanted out for a long time. So when COVID hit, I was actually fortunate enough to get kind of a golden parachute. And they actually gave me a pretty nice severance and stuff. So I lucked out pretty big time on that.
I find that a lot of people I talk to that came from corporate jobs, I came from the healthcare field. It's a whole different world. But I hear a lot from people from corporate jobs that they were toxic or they were in a situation where they wanted out. And reselling has been such a blessing for so many people to become your own boss, make your own hours. Listen, if you don't like your boss and you're your boss, you've got some things to think about and some changes to make.
Sometimes I don't like her. Sometimes my own boss is a bitch. I'll be honest. Sometimes she's not nice. And sometimes I want to put her on timeout, but we wake up the next day and we try again.
My boss is really cool, but she's a little super organized and type A.
It can be hard sometimes.
Tell me how the name, because I know you told us at Camp Listing Party, but how Tiffy Pie came about.
I actually am really excited because in October, I'm actually an LLC now. So I officially am Tiffy Pie LLC. For the longest time, that was just my brand and I didn't actually have a company. And so I was actually talking with the tax accountant yesterday and we were talking about what's next and how to file taxes as a business and all that stuff. And I made the joke to her, which is the same joke I made at Camp Listing Party. And I make it a lot is you got to be very careful when you're 13 about what screen name you pick because you might be a 36-year-old adult woman who everyone calls Tiffy Pie. I made it my screen name for my bank account when I was 13 and it stuck. And then I had to do an Instagram I don't remember. I think it was for work. I think they wanted me to be posting new hire photos or something. And I was like, oh, I'll just be Tiffy Pie. And now that is my name as an adult woman. People I walk down the street, like if I'm at a conference or if I'm at something and people literally scream that, and I forget sometimes that my name is not Tiffy Pie.
I think it's cute. I think it fits you.
Thank you.
I think Tiffy Pie is cuter than walking down a conference and somebody yelling, "Hey, hippos!"
I didn't think about that,
I
actually.
do answer for that, though. I'm like, yo, what's up?
Where did the hippo part come from? The flipping part I figured out, but where did the hippos come from?
So, long story long, probably, because I can never consolidate the story. When I still worked in the healthcare field, Keith was reselling on his own. And I stole this from him when I got hurt and became disabled. He was this close to quitting his job and going full time. He gave it to me because I couldn't work outside of the home. So then we busted our butts together real hard. And he quit his job in 2020 to join me. But back in like 2015 and 16, when I just didn't care what he was doing, he wanted me to name his eBay store. And I flippantly said, call it the Hippo Hut. People like alliteration. And he named it the Hippo Hut. So when I came on board and created social media to go with it, there's 2 of us. So we're the Flippin' Hippos.
I love that.
Yeah, I had an obsession with Fiona from the
Okay.
Ohio Zoo at the time.
Yeah.
And I actually went through like 20 names and he kept rolling his eyes. And I'm like, listen, if you want me to name your store, you can't shoot down every option. So just be a Hippo Hut. Okay.
He's like, all right, I guess we are Hippo Huts now. Like that's who we are.
So we are the hippos, but I like hippos. They're cute.
And I totally know about Fiona. Fiona the hippo was born, and my niece Fiona was born pretty similarly. And it's funny, she's not named after the hippo, but it's right around the same time. So it makes me laugh every time.
She's really cute. She has a brother named Fitz or Fritz. If you
That
know
I did
his
not
name,
know.
tell us in the comments. He was born recently. I have a lot of hippos. I don't even know if you can see them. I have so much inventory in here. I like hippos. They're cute, so it's okay. But
They're so cute when they're little.
they're
Well,
just
little.
cute. They're mean though. They kill more
Yeah.
people annually than sharks do.
People don't know that. And when I tell people that, they're like, no, they do not. I'm like, yes, no, hippos are vicious.
They're mean. They chase people.
Yes.
Like not in America, but if you go to South America, they can run 35 miles an hour, I believe.
It's kind of like moose. People do not realize how fast moose can run and how violent they are. And they're like, oh, they're so cute. I'm like, no, they'll kill you.
Yeah. Most animals will.
Yeah, don't go pet a moose or a hippo.
Or a lion or an alligator.
Oh God.
Alligators are scary. What's English? I tried to read 2 questions at the same time.
Did you see me? I was like, what's English?
What you sell? What you?
I was like, are you drinking? What's happening here?
Maybe.
Yeah, you're like, is it vodka?
Is it coffee?
No one knows. It looks a little vodka-y to me.
What types of items do you sell?
Almost all clothes. So I really, really, really specialize in women's fashion. I dabble with, now I'm dipping my feet in kids, and then I've always done a little bit of men's here and there. I don't know men's brands. I know children's brands really well. So before, in my past life, I was 4 years at Nordstrom Kids. And so I know the good kids brands really well. I know the brands that sell really well. I know the brands that retain value and quality really well. So I can do kids naturally, but women's was sort of my passion. And when I was doing it as a hobby from like 2017 to 2020 and just doing it for fun and thrifting after my, my regular old corporate job, it was really just, I knew brands. I didn't have to spend a lot of time looking it up. I could just quit, and I could feel going through the racks, you could feel the quality. And so for me, it was really easy. Like some people are so good at stuffed animals, or some people are really good at like Starbucks tumblers, right? And I'm like, how do you know which tumbler is which? Like, it's just crazy to me.
So what's your favorite thing to sell?
So it's actually, most resellers hate it. I actually like jeans, and most women's fashion resellers hate jeans. It's a weird phenomenon to me because I think jeans, you take the sideways picture, you take the backwards picture, the front label, and then you take the side label, and then you do some photo room and boom, you're done. Whereas not taking on and off of a mannequin and trying to style it and trying to get the ties just right with my dresses or tops and things like that. So that, and athleisure. I'm a big athleisure wearer. So I love that is something that I can also sell.
So did you see my face light up? Because next to Plush, jeans are my favorite. And
which is interesting.
when I started this, I was fashion dumb, right? I've lived in Walmart clothes my whole life, and I've never really cared. I wore jeans and graphic tees, but I've self-taught myself the good brands. I buy thread-up boxes all the time and learn. And it actually, people say it's surprising, but it makes sense when you combine my type A personality, my OCD, and my bad back, because I can take a stack of jeans and sit here for 4 hours and watch movies and measure and photograph and not overtax myself. And I can get a lot done, and I can hyper focus. And once you learn them, you don't have to comp anymore, guys. Once you know your brand. Right. I love jeans. I just look, I have a stack sitting right here that I just want to touch. Like, I'm obsessed with them.
Emotional support jeans.
Yes, I pulled some money jeans out. Miss Me's, Silvers, Madewell's.
Right. Oh, Madewell's my personal favorite brand to wear as well. So I'm a big fan.
I like Judy Blues.
Oh, yeah.
They're good for curvy girls, by the way.
Yes.
They're good. That's why I like them, because I'm fluffy.
You are perfect.
Thank you. I'm a perfect little hippo.
And I'm a perfect little pie.
So you already said you saw mostly on I cannot speak on Friday. I'm so sorry.
I'm pretty sure you're drunk is what I think is happening.
Yeah.
She just says half Bacardi, half Coke is what she's drinking.
Got some Kahlua. You sell on Poshmark and Kidizen mostly, branched out to eBay. Anywhere else? And Macari. And that's it?
That's it for, I dabble in Depop. I find Depop very overwhelming. I find it really niche, and I find it very frustrating that 80% of the time the buyer never pays, because I think it's a lot of really young people that are purchasing on there. And so I'm not, even though I was a Y2K teenager, I don't really know a lot of Y2K, like what Y2K is going to sell versus what Y2K is going to sit for 100 years. And so I have a few things that I cross. It's like if I get vintage Fry boots, they go on Depop because I know they'll sell there and they sell fast. But just really, I have 25 listings on there.
What's your favorite platform to sell on?
Posh. For me, it's plug and play for me, and I know it in and out, and I have a really good relationship with a lot of the employees at Poshmark headquarters. They've given me a ton of opportunities. I always go on and on about Posh, not just because it's I think, great platform, but everywhere from the CEO down to their customer service team has always been so supportive of me in my career. I was the first person to go live on Posh shows. They had me come into their HQ. I'm literally the first person that did a Posh show live. They gave me that opportunity. They gave me the opportunity to run a show when they came to Dallas at their big Posh Live here. They gave me the chance to speak at Posh Fest last year and tell my story. And I can't thank them enough, and the opportunities they give me. And so, I get a lot of flack of, you pay 20% in fees on Poshmark. Those fees are so much higher. Well, first of all, a lot of eBay sellers, and I have had conversations where they now have agreed, eBay is starting to creep up right up there with where it's getting pretty close to that. But also the customer service I receive from Posh is it's second to none. They always are there for me. They always help me out. They always respond really quickly. And so I can't think of a time that I haven't been able to get my issue resolved with them. So for me, I'm paying them almost as an employee. That 20% is they're my employee kind of a thing.
I've actually done a video on that, comparing the fees, because I hear that a lot too. People say Poshmark's fees are too high. I disagree. On eBay, first of all, you're paying for a store subscription if you have one. Factor that in. You have to factor that in. So if you're paying $60 a month and you have, I don't even know what we pay. I think it's $60 for what? The basic, right? I don't remember.
Mine's the baby store. So I only pay $22. Mine is because I pay for a year. And so it was $30 and then it dropped down to $22. But mine's when you're a child on eBay. That's what mine
we have to pay this one, but you have to divide that. So if I have 3,000 listings and I'm paying a store subscription, how much am I paying per listing for that subscription? If you go above and beyond, it's another 10 cents insertion fee. Every month it rolls over on its own, and it either goes against the count of listings that you get or another 10 cents insertion fee. Poshmark. I was about to call it Facebook. Poshmark, list it and forget it forever. No listing fee, no subscription fee. You want to promote your items on eBay, you got to pay promoted listings. Poshmark does offer promoted now, but they're not necessary. Share your closet. Get a free promotion. Share your closet. Y'all can do it in bulk. It's easy.
Fast. Like, I don't have a huge closet right now. When we moved, I liquidated a lot of my inventory, and I'm still, with some health stuff, still trying to build it back up again to what I was when I moved last year. But I mean, I could share my listings. I don't have a humongous store, and I never will. I'm not a huge volume seller. I'm more of I look for the mid to higher range and try and focus more on that versus volume. But you can literally know that it's 20%. It's not 20% plus. It's not 20% plus. It's just 20%.
Yeah. There's no add-on fees. There's no subscription fees. You can list everything for free at first, and it can sit forever. It doesn't roll. And I have 3,000. We're volume sellers. And I don't have an assistant. I don't pay a bot. First thing in the morning when I come in here in the morning, you guys don't know, if you push your scrolly button in on your mouse and pull it down real hard, it scrolls down the page for you. So you can go to your bulk share on your computer. You don't even have to do it on your phone. You can literally push this in, pull it down, and while it's pulling it down, if you have 3,000 like me, it takes a couple minutes. I can get the pick list ready for Keith. I can get our envelopes ready and all our shipping stuff ready, and then get it started. And I work in here all day anyway, so I can just keep an eye on it just in case it asks me if I'm a robot, because I'm not human. And I can remind it that I am. And when it's done, check if there were likes, send out offers, and start it all over again. I don't really see the need to pay for a bot either. People say, but it's so much easier. I have 3,000 listings and I manage. So I think it's a waste of money. I'm gonna get some people coming at me for that.
I think that I think everyone has to know it works for their business.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also don't agree with putting money where you don't need to.
Right.
Like, if you want to do newsletters, you probably want to pay for something like MailChimp, because it's really hard to manage thousands of emails on your own and send out emails. But when it's something like sharing your Posh Closet, I think it's so easy to do it yourself. I don't see the need to pay for it. But if that's what you want to do with your money, I'm not paying your bills, right? I'll just tell you what I think as a follower of Dave Ramsey and being debt free.
That's true.
So we already just established you're full time, and that's because you got laid off and you just rolled with the punches. But do you have any advice for anyone that wants to quit their job and do this full time?
That is such a great question. You know what? I think I've done quite a few conferences and stuff, and I'm really sorry if you can hear my dogs. They are jerks, and there's no place in this house I can hide from them. So if you hear them barking in the background, I'm really sorry. They hate mailmen, squirrels, and neighbors, dogs, leaves. So frogs, rabbits, air. So if you hear them barking, I'm really sorry. But I don't think I've ever been asked that question before in all the interviews I've ever done. I think for me, it would be you kind of were just talking about this with, you don't pay anyone else's bills and you want to live a debt-free life. Is it reasonable to you, to your lifestyle, to be able to maintain it with reselling? And I think that's the question you have to ask yourself. If you have a partner, really having that conversation with your partner. I don't have children. So for me, failing was more, I don't want to say okay, but Karen, but I had more room to fail because I don't have children that I pay for on a daily basis. Now I do help support my niece and nephew. So that's something that comes into play. But I think if you have a partner or if you don't, you need to look at your bills. You need to look at what goes in every month and what needs to come in order to make a living. And then you need to look at yourself and say, can I do this? Do I want to do more than this? How do I grow this? What am I going to, and I know that sounds kind of silly, but it's literally having a conversation with yourself first, then having a conversation with everyone else in your house that you need to have that conversation with. And then it is working your butt off, because like you said, sometimes my boss is a jerk. That's me. Sometimes I'm employee of the week, which is really exciting when I nominate and give myself that honor, but it's just hard. It's really hard. And no one talks about the struggle as well as the hustle that it takes every day. And, like I haven't been feeling that great this year. This year has been my worst health year of my life. And so the flip side is that if I don't feel good, I can sleep in until noon and then I can work until last night I worked until 4 a.m. So my family went to bed at 11. I worked from 11 to 4 and I got a ton of stuff done. So while I slept till noon, I got so much, I did a live show from 12 to 2. So it's just trying to figure out what works for you and how hard are you willing to work. And I know this is going to sound like the most cliche Instagram quote ever. How bad do you want it?
That's really good advice. And that's something I do tell people. You have to sit down. You said a conversation with yourself. I say sit down with a pen and paper. This is my bills. This is my groceries. This is my fun money. This is my lifestyle. This is all the money I need a month. My partner brings in this. Or if you're single, you got no partner. Right. This is what I need to make. And is that feasible for you? And then you have to break it down. And you have to decide, am I going to be a volume seller or am I going to sell high end? What do you have in your area? Because you can go into this with tons of knowledge and think, I can have average sale price of $50 and then find out that in your area, like us, you're only going to find bread and butter items at 99 cents a pop. And we pivoted. Well, if I can get items for 99 cents, I can buy thousands of them a month and flip them and make $10 a piece. Because that's what I have available to me. But if I lived somewhere, I have a friend that lives near Beverly Hills. Let me tell you what she can thrift. She has to thrift like 10 items a week. That's it. She goes into the consignment shops and thrift stores near the Rodeo Drive.
That's my dream, just so you know, is to go to the Beverly Hills thrift stores. My mom tells me stories from when she grew up in that area and just walking in and just seeing rows and rows in the consignment shops of Louis Vuittons. And I'm a Louis Vuitton. That's what I carry. That's my luxury that I buy my shirts at like American Eagle and Target, but I carry Louis Vuitton handbags. My friends all call me a bougie hippie. And so it's my dream. So your friend, I have to know her. She's on Instagram. I have to follow her because I need to see her finds.
She is on Instagram. I'll send you her Instagram. She teaches other people how to resell also, but she has just access to tons of stuff. And then I have another friend who's not on social media. She's kind of more of a private person who lives in Scranton, Pennsylvania, like right on the border of New York. So she goes into New York City.
Oh.
And she has done this for years. And now she's got deals with some of the outlet stores where they will just send her boxes of stuff with tags of like Zara and Robert Graham and just like all kinds of really great stuff. So, excuse me, for folks like that, you need less. You don't need volume.
Right.
I don't have anywhere to get that, but I can get allergies. I can also get Plush for like 25 cents a pound all day. We get remotes for 25 cents a pound. We get 99-cent clothes. So we just built a volume store. And there's nothing wrong with either way.
No.
It's what you have access to, what you can functionally and sustainably source and have inventory of consistently that you're not going to get tired of or bored of, that you're okay with doing.
Well, I think that you make such a good point too with what you have access to. Me moving here, it's a very different vibe. Prices are set here at the Goodwill. Whereas I spent a lot of time thrifting at mom and pops in California. I really liked that. I liked that I was supporting nonprofits. I liked that I was helping. I ended up volunteering. I loved one so much. I spent the last couple of years I was in California volunteering for a domestic violence and homeless shelter, right? That the thrift store helped build this homeless shelter for people. And so I loved that. The pricing was definitely more affordable. It went to a really great cause. And I didn't even mind paying up for things because I knew, okay, half of this is going to, half of this is what I would pay at Goodwill. And then half of this is going to help somebody in my community that doesn't have a home or is in a domestic violence situation they're trying to get out of. And so that for me has been a pivot. Here it's almost only Goodwill. I don't do the bins regularly. The Dallas bins are supposed to be really, really good. A lot of the Dallas thrifters do it. There's two reasons I don't go. One, the bins, I can do it probably a couple times a year, but it overwhelms me in general. And then the other reason is, I know this is going to sound crazy if you know my personality, I don't want to talk to people. And so people will be like, hey, oh my gosh, hi, I know you. And I'm like, yay. I don't want to thrift with anybody. So I don't like talking to people when I thrift. I thrift solo almost exclusively. I know that's really weird, but that's my weird. I think that's when my only child comes out is I like solitude. And so if I want to spend an hour on the bathing suit rack at a thrift store, I don't want there to be someone who's been like, you've been at this rack for an hour. Like, let's go to the next rack.
Mm-hmm. I get that. I was an only child too, and I'm very solitary. I don't like to leave the house. And when you meet me at events, you're like, what? No, you're so personable on YouTube. And when we meet you at Camp Listing, because I go there to socialize.
Right.
I know what I'm getting into. It's going to be meeting people and having fun. And then it takes me 6 months to get rid of my anxiety and get back to normal afterwards. Because I'm just very much a loner. But with me, and this is weird for being a reseller, I have a lot of problems with being a germaphobe and germs in general.
Me too.
And I sell Plush. But listen, we wash and dry everything clothing wise. Most Plush we wash, we at least steam them. I bought a steamer that touts on the box, kills bed bugs and mites and germs. And so we take the Plush. Yeah. We let things sit outside. They don't come inside until they've been cleaned or steamed. So, but it's really weird because we're both germaphobes and we're resellers, but there's a reason why we don't do shoes. I tried at a very brief time where I tried shoes, but just the thought of other people's toe sweat on my hands.
That's not for you.
No.
I've done some pretty sketchy things in my time. So I really like selling swimsuits. I've done some sketchy things in my time. Let's put it that way.
Oh, swimsuits wig me out too.
They do for me too.
If we think about anything we sell, it's used clothing. And it's not even just used clothing. I did a whole video on why you should wash everything you source. And I talked in that video about it's not just the thrift stores. People in general are gross. Just in general. Yeah. Human beings are nasty. They say like 75% of people don't wash their hands after they use the restroom. People pick their nose, they cough, they scratch, they dig. I don't know what they do. But then they go into Walmart with all that stuff on their hands and they're touching stuff that's new at tags even. So with me, it's not just because I'm thrifting and it's used clothing. Everywhere I go, I'm constantly thinking, who picked their butt and then touched this? Like, because people in general are gross.
It's funny. So one of my good friends, I think he's a super big germaphobe and so am I. And it totally freaks him out when I find him stuff, like he has certain brands he loves and I'll find it at the thrift store and I can tell it freaks him out. And finally my mom was like, so you realize that since the beginning of time, people buy stuff from like Lululemon, wear it and return it, right? And he just kind of like looked at her and so all your stuff you're getting at Lulu that you think is brand new, has it been worn? Was it tried on by somebody gross in the dressing room? Like, what did they do? And so it's just funny to me because that flipping it on its head of like, oh, I guess that could be anywhere, anytime, just like you were saying with Walmart. The people buy stuff. I love Nordstrom. I worked for Nordstrom for 4 years. Like I said, I know how much people buy and wear things, tuck the tags and return it, which by the way, side note, I think makes you a deplorable person. So that's just like, that is a weird like tag tucking to me, probably because of my long history at Nordstrom, probably because of just how unethical it is. I'm like, just go buy something at a thrift store. Mm-hmm. If it's a cost situation, thrift it. Like but now if you notice a lot of the higher end brands, like I just saw it on a dress I bought from Revolve, they stick a tag on the very front of the dress now.
So you can't tuck it.
Yeah. Because people do that. They'll buy these.
They do. I've seen it on sitcoms even. I think there was a Friends episode where they were like, just tuck the tag and return it when you're done. Like it used to be common. Like people accepted it.
And I was just like, what? And because I worked at Nordstrom that returned everything, even if it was clearly worn, we would return it. And it's just like, it's one thing to come in and say, like, I remember I bought a pair of shoes when I worked at Nordstrom. They fell apart after I wore them twice. I literally said to the manager, like, I wore these twice. They fell apart. That's not a problem. You should be able to return something that you spent $100 on and it lasted for 2 wears. When I can get a pair of sandals at Target that I'm now in the 4th summer that I've worn them 8 times, 10, 15 times a summer. But to come in and know that you're purposefully going to do that is just like, And there's just this whole cyclical thing of like giving resellers a bad name because of what we do and how that affects. And it's just like, I'm trying to keep stuff out of a landfill. I'm trying to be sustainable and I'm trying to keep overproduction of things that don't need to be mass produced. Like Shein is a dirty word in my house. So
Yeah, I hear you. Back to the trying things on too, because Keith has a lot of issues with thrifted clothing. Like I find him really cool Star Wars t-shirts. He's a nerd for like 99 cents, and he has to wash it like 3 times, 4 times before he'll wear it. Which, if that's what he needs to do to live his life, okay. But people with sweaty, dirty armpits that haven't showered in months still go into Walmart and try on clothes. So wash your new clothes too, which we do. We just bought 2 new hoodies yesterday from Marshall's that had a clearance, and they're just plain black. We're just plain people, but we got 2 hoodies for $20. Like, you can't do that anymore.
no.
We brought them home. We cut the tags off. We washed them. That's just what we
Because
do.
you don't know where that's been. You don't know if somebody brought it home and wore it around the house for the day before they returned.
You don't know if somebody who doesn't shower tried it on, or somebody scratched their selves, their nether regions, and then touched it. Like, I hate to tell you how gross people are, but I need to tell you, this is why we wash everything. And people, I think it's gross. If you're bringing used clothing into your home and you're not washing it, I have friends that got bed bugs from the bins because they would just bring it right in and throw it right on their living room floor. And they ended up having to rip all their carpets up, get rid of all their furniture. They had to replace everything in their home because of bed bugs. And
that's my nightmare because I don't wash everything I sell. I had a lot of problems with Posh with scents, with detergents, no matter what detergent I use, scentless, unscented, scented. And so it just became such an issue with complaints about odors. And a lot of stuff I thrift is new with tags. So you can't wash it because if you wash something new with tags, you can't. It's just, it loses the value instantly. Like you can't.
You can steam that though.
Yeah. And I do have I'm very, very fortunate that when we bought this house, my husband had an hairdresser. It's what he really, really, really wanted. It's his bougie thing that he wanted. And that helps a lot. Hi, Rosie. But I just, I don't know. I just like, we don't wash everything. I know it's super controversial. And people are really, it's like very polarizing, I feel like. And so it's just this conversation that I avoid with most people because most people are like very up in arms when I tell them that.
So you can steam items that are new with tags, which is what I do. And you can get a steamer that actually kills mites, bed bugs, and sanitizes. And then I put a link over there for Persil laundry detergent. It's specifically for the exterminators recommend that if you have a bed bug infestation. So we use that on our thrifted clothes just in case. And there's no scent and it's gentle and good for kids. Just putting that out there. I know you said it's polarizing, but on my channel, I make it no secret that I think it's gross if you don't.
And like I said, it's very like, I mean, to me, it is, people have very strong opinions one way or the other about it. And so I tread more lightly with that than I do on religion and politics. Cause I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to upset somebody when they find out.
Well, my friends felt very strongly about it too, until they were paying thousands and thousands of dollars to replace carpets and furniture. And they actually live somewhere up north. I'm not allowed to tell you who they are. I'm allowed to tell their story. I have been released to tell their story, but I can't tell you who they are because people in the community know them. But they do live further up north than me, like almost like Canada. And bed bugs are more prevalent in cold places.
So one of the things that I do that is different is everything in my Posh room. It only goes in my Posh room. Everything is wood flooring and everything sits for a really long time before I go through it. I'm not saying that's going to solve all my life problems, but it does help a lot. Knock on wood.
And you live in Texas where it's hot. You live in California where it's hot. People who live in Florida, if you just leave your stuff in your trunk overnight, or Arizona, you're probably okay. But if you live in colder places, it's where they're prevalent.
And where they stay. They can live for a lot longer.
Yes, because the heat's what kills them, which is why they say wash and dry the stuff.
Right.
Okay, so we got about 20 minutes left, and the next question is a hot button question. So we're going to ask it. I like to ask this question of everybody that comes on the channel, and I love all the different answers I get. It is a hot button. So a lot of folks, and you already touched upon this, say that resellers are part of the problem. We get a bad rap. We're stealing from the poor. We're driving the prices up at the thrift store. So I want to know what your feelings and thoughts are on that.
So I have a lot of feelings and thoughts on this. And so I'm actually glad you asked. And like you said, I kind of touched on it earlier. It's something that I'm passionate about. So since spending that time volunteering at the thrift store that I had mentioned helped the homeless community and helped the domestic violence situations for women and children, one of the things that I learned right off the bat was how much waste there was. And what I mean by that is how much didn't sell at the thrift store that we had to get rid of off the floor. So everything was tagged with a color. And when it got to X number of color, we would have to get rid of it because it meant it had been there for, we would first do like 75% off. And then if it still didn't sell, we were very fortunate in California that we had a textile company that would come and pick it up by the thousands of pounds and would turn it either into like blankets and stuff for the homeless or turn it or get it to third world countries that were in need of clothing. But when I tell you the thousands and thousands of pounds, not just of stuff that we pulled off the floor, but stuff that never made it on the floor. So I would go through the volunteers. There was a lot of older volunteers that were in their 70s, 80s, 90s. Because they couldn't stand for a long time, but they could sit and just have bags that their feet brought to them and they would go through. And about 90% of what was donated would go right into the textile donations. So you already are not accepting 90% of the donations because they're not of quality that a person would purchase. Then you have the stuff that sits on the floor for 150,000 years. So you put these things together and you have this huge problem of what would we do if we didn't have resellers? And before I volunteered to work at the thrift store, I laid everything out on the table when I did my interview with the volunteer coordinator. This is my job. This is what I do. I know I get a discount. What can I buy? What can I not buy? What blah, 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 blah. And the manager of the store and I became really good friends over the years that I worked there. And I actually ended up helping them do a high-end rack. So they had never had a high-end rack before. So what I did very unselfishly, because before I was picking up all that high-end stuff for $1 or $2, I said, you can sell this for $100. You can sell this for $150. And so I would do that. And, the first couple of times she would call me and she'd be like, oh my goodness, Tiffany, that purse you put up, it sold in 10 minutes for $150. That's like 3 people's overnight stay at the shelter, right? So it's really meaningful. Mm-hmm. But secondarily, I laid my cards out on the table to let people know this is what I do. I recently saw an interview with the CEO of Goodwill who said, if it weren't for resellers, we would probably go under. We do not have enough people who are in need in the community of clothing, shoes, accessories to keep our businesses run. In the city that I lived in, we had 4 Goodwills within a 10-mile radius. By the time I moved, we had 1. 3 had closed because they couldn't sustain it. There just wasn't enough customers. So if it weren't for resellers, they would probably have to close that 4th one too. I know because I would go into the Goodwill and 85% of the people were local resellers that I knew. Why? Because they came into my thrift store and I knew why they were there. If you buy 15 pieces of clothing from me and they're all different sizes, like I pick up pretty quickly what you do for a living. And reading that article from the CEO, they were just really mentioning how impactful in a good way resellers are for the community. Not even mentioning getting me started on the sustainability and the keeping. That's the main reason I do this, is to keep it out of the landfills. And the end of my rant is this. The number one place where I see these complaints is on TikTok, and it's typically younger people, 15, 18, 20 years old. Well, the next TikTok I see is their Shein haul. And I'm like, okay, so you just went on a 2, 3, 4 TikTok rampage about how I am a terrible person because I'm stealing from those in need. But you just bought from a company that is notorious for child labor and not paying people for their labor. And you're okay with that? And then you're going to wear it 3 times and it falls apart and then you're going to throw it in the garbage.
I was about to mention, and the low quality, like even if you don't like fast fashion, Walmart clothes are better quality than Shein.
Absolutely. I buy stuff from Target regularly, and there's a reason. There's a couple reasons. One, I have a really hard time thrifting for myself. Not because I don't want to wear thrifted clothes. I shop on Poshmark all day long. It's because I just never find stuff in my size, ever. I wear very specific sizes and things. For those who don't know me in person, I'm almost 6 feet tall. So finding things that are long enough for me is a challenge. All day long, I'm buying from people on Poshmark because I can say, hey, these are the Madewell jeans that I love. Can you just give me measurements? I need waist, I need rise, I need inseam. And that's where I get most of my jeans from. But at the same time, I can't thrift. It's just not easy in my height to do that. I also just don't enjoy it. It's not fun for me. What's fun for me is the thrill of the find. So I'm not like, oh, I'm here shopping to find myself a band tee. I'm here to find a really high quality, beautiful dress that I can get somebody. I said my last thing, but I will add one more thing. especially around the holidays, and I like get emotional and I tear up. The amount of messages I get from moms, grandmas, dads, uncles, aunts who say, I would have never been able to get my insert niece, nephew, whatever, this $300 pair of jeans that they want, but because you sold it to me for $50, I make a little bit here, the thrift store made a little bit there, and now this person's getting this item at 85% off of retail value. There's no losers. It's not in the landfill. Somebody's getting something they never would have been able to afford otherwise. Like, who's losing here? Like, I don't know how this could possibly be bad in any way.
I totally agree. And coming from a Plush point of view, I'm not going to get teared up or anything, but I get a lot of those this time of year as well. And a lot of times it's kids who've lost their favorite plushie over the summer when their parents took them to the beach or to the Disney. And they found it in my store at an affordable price, and they were able to get it for their kid for Christmas to replace that plush. And a lot of kids get really attached to their plushies. And so when they don't have them, they're very sad. And I get messages like that. I also get messages from folks who buy plushies for their spouse or their parents that are vintage, that they remember from their childhood. And oh my gosh, like, you had that 40-year-old Care Bear. I can't believe it. My wife had that when she was a kid. She talks about it all the time. I was able to get it for her. So I get those too. And like you said, there's no losers. And plushies are the first thing to go to landfills, or people give to their dogs to just chew up and tear up. And I save all my little friends and I find them little forever homes. So yeah, I agree with everything you said. And what I like to say, my answer to this is everything you've said, plus we're personal shoppers. So someone looking for a specific plush or that specific dress that you can get them affordably, or someone in California that can never find Wranglers that are very prominent in Pittsburgh. I can walk into thrift stores and find Wranglers all day. We're doing a service for people across the country that can't find these things in their area, that can go online from the comfort of their home and find exactly what they need from us. And we're making their day. They're getting what they want. They're happy. So we're personal shoppers. That's what we are.
Well, not even when you mention from home, people who are disabled or differently abled, who aren't able to go out and go shopping, like that, I get a lot of that. I have a lot of customers of mine that they still want to look and feel good, but they can't go and stand for 3 or 4 hours at a Goodwill going through racks, right? They don't have that ability with their body to do that. And I have a lot of people, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is invisible illnesses as well, is a lot of people can't handle crowds. They can't handle public. They can't handle germs, right? And so they still want to have beautiful things. They still want to have their plushies from when they were a little kid. And that's a whole nother element that people don't realize is you're not 20 forever, and your body, and I'm not saying that every 20-year-old has a perfectly able body either, but my body's definitely a lot different from when I was 20. But your body's not always going to work the way you want it to. And people go through different things in their lives where they can't. I have people who are wheelchair bound. They can't go out and just easily go to Goodwill. Some of these thrift stores, these mom and pops, are teeny tiny places that don't accommodate wheelchairs, walkers, things like that. I'll have women in their 80s. I had a woman in my show last night. She said she was 76 years old. Aww. She was like, I'm living for this live shopping moment because I can pick things out and I don't have to leave my house. Or they're night owls, and that's the stores are all closed at night. There's so many different reasons why reselling is great. And I have not had one single person in all of these years that I've been doing this that's given me one good argument for why resellers are actually thieves.
No, they'll try to give you their arguments, but they're easily shot down, is what I want to say. And I've had several people be rude to me in the stores, but I just smile at them. At the end of the day, also, if someone, sees you in the store and says, oh, you're one of them, just smile, because they're probably, back to the beginning of the show, working for a boss they don't like, in a toxic job and a toxic environment, commuting and just miserable. And they know that you're getting up in your pajamas to walk across the hall and resell, and you're living your best life, and you're your own boss. And sometimes when people are in a toxic situation and they see you living a good life, the only response is negativity. Absolutely. They'll be negative towards you because they're miserable. And I'm not going to be miserable with them. I built this life to be what I want it to be. And if you want to be miserable, you can do it over there, because I don't have room for it anymore. Bye, Felicia.
I agree with you. In my personal life, my life changed a lot. And I share this when I speak, and I share this and my YouTube my YouTube pivoted completely. I don't have a gazillion followers. I have literally like 300 followers, but the 300 followers that I do have, when I post about grief. I lost my dad a year ago. And
Mhm.
the year before that was I lost my dog, which I don't have human kids. I have fur kids, and he was the love of my life. The same week he passed was the week my dad was diagnosed stage 4 cancer. Like, my life changed so much. And then my dad died 2 days later. I left my whole life of 35 years in California to move, thank you, to move to a dang place where I didn't know a single soul, to a home that was supposed to be completely built and wasn't finished, even though it was put off for 11 months. They pushed me. I am a year into living here, and I still have contractors come every single Tuesday because we're not done yet, right? Reason I bring this all up, I have unfollowed a lot of people in real life. I have unfollowed and unfriended. A year ago, I had 100 close friends. Today, I have 10 close friends. And the reason is because I've unfollowed them in real life, because they're either miserable in their toxic life, or because they could not possibly live in a world where Tiffy Pie wasn't just joy and happy and bubbly. And for years, my personalized plate on my car was bubbly. I am a bubbly person. I am a loving person. I will support you. We talked a few minutes before we were starting about how I always want to be there for everybody, and I will be there for you. But I'm not there to be like your clown and to just cheer you up because you're down. And then when it's my turn, you're nowhere to be found. When my dad was sick, so many people that I supported through family having breast cancer, people having loss in their family, they were nowhere to be found. And I was like, you know what? This is a serious life unsubscribe. Like, I'm not interested anymore. And people were blown away that bubbly Tiffany, like Tiffy Pie, was suddenly becoming Tiffany, the person with fillings. And that's okay.
It is. You have a cute saying for it, unsubscribe from life. I just call it writing people off and taking out the trash. And I have no qualms. I've had friends for 20 some years that did something that I felt was toxic, or they lost their morality, or they lost their support of me, or they ghosted me. I have no problem with just boop, you're dead to me. You're done. You're gone. I'm 45 years old. Tiffany didn't know that, or that I had kids. Thank you. It's all the vampire blood I drank. But I spent a lot of my life into my 30s worrying about what other people thought, doing what I thought other people needed, being who I thought other people needed me to be, and putting up with a lot of crap. So now I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I have now built this to be what I need it to be. Don't mess with my peace, because I will put you in the trash. You will be out so fast. And I don't care if both of my parents have passed, but if my mom was still alive and she screwed up, I would probably be able to write her off at this point, because I just don't have energy for people who are negative.
Rosie just wrote, it's
Yeah, I
hard
just
to know
saw
what I
that.
did to my best friend. And I had people, I'm trying to get emotional. This is my thing that's so annoying. Everyone who's kind enough to invite me to be on their podcast, I end up crying on them. I haven't made it through one without crying, because I lost. So here's something that I did I did a few reels. Like, I'm trying to learn how to use YouTube, and I'm trying to learn how to do the shorts and all that. And I did a few, and I was doing 3 things you learn about grieving or whatever.
I
And
watched this.
one of my last one was probably one of the most impactful ones. And it's, you're going to lose a lot of people you thought you would never lose, but you're going to gain a lot of people you never thought you were going to gain. And I don't know if you're close at all with Katie and Vicky, but they have been really, really helpful with my life, and they have been really helpful in supporting me. And Vicky has gone through a lot of loss herself. And
Mhm.
I never knew that at Camp Listing Party, I was going to meet you guys, and I was going to meet so many amazing people that I was going to see you from across the room and think, oh my gosh, Star's never going to talk to me, because in my head, you're just this internet sensation that is never going to know who's
Please.
Tiffany, right? And you looked at me and you were like, you walked up to me and you gave me one of your pens. And I literally was like, I'm such a huge fan of yours. Like, I follow you, I blah, 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 blah. And so it's just weird how we see the world from our perspective. And we forget that we're also important to other people. And so while I lost a bunch of people that I thought were going to be my ride or dies, I gained these new amazing people who ask me how I'm doing, who check in with me. Today, Vicky asked me how I was doing, and I told her, and it was a super Debbie Downer answer. And I was like, sorry, that was so Debbie Downer. She goes, no, I actually asked because I cared. I didn't ask so you would say fine or good or okay. Like,
Mhm.
I asked and I gave you an answer because my answer was, I'm not good. Like, I feel like crap. And it was just a really not fun answer. But I couldn't do that before with my friends. I had to be like, I'm great. Everything's
Yeah.
great.
No, I agree. Well, when you first, before we came live and you came on and you asked me how I was doing, I looked at you and I go, well, I'm alive. And that's my honest answer. Like when I'm on YouTube, they don't need to hear. But when you have someone you can honestly say that to, I didn't look at you and go, oh, it's Christmas and I'm happy. No, I just went, well, Tiffany, I'm alive. And
And
you
like,
went, me too.
yeah, and it changes sometimes hour to hour, right? Especially like I mentioned, I have medical issues this year that I never really had in my life. And I sometimes feel fine, and so it's very confusing to people. I feel like depression, anxiety, and health issues are confusing to people because they think once you have something, it's a continuum, right? And so for
Mhm.
me, last Saturday, I woke up in the morning and I'm a huge Christmas lover, and we had plans to go to this like really hard to get into Christmas bar. They do it up. You have to pay for reservations. It's a whole hoopla. And I woke up in the morning and I felt like garbage, and I was like, I can't go, and I was crying and I was super upset. Then I got in the shower and I got dressed. And by the time I got there, 3-4 hours later, I was feeling better. My stomach had settled. I took a Zofran. I was able to take an anti-nausea medication that had helped quell it. I was able to enjoy a couple of drinks. And that's another thing. Well, if you have all these stomach issues, why are you drinking alcohol? Well, guess what? Alcohol doesn't affect my body. I don't have any problems with anything. I don't have any problems with absorbing alcohol. My gastroenterologist, as well as my rheumatologist and my GP all said, in fact, my GP said, maybe you should drink more. We try and keep that anxiety down. So
Yeah.
you don't get to be the judge of if I have a couple glasses of wine. Well, if you have stomach problems, you can't drink wine. Oh, so now you're the boss of my body. No, actually, it turns out I can drink wine. I just can't eat dairy. I can't eat half of the things that I can't eat onions. I can't eat cilantro. But you know what? I can down some wine, eat a piece of bread. But
You're so
people police
cute.
my body. And I'm like, you're telling me now how I feel. And I'm just like, okay, now I'm scared to post on social media because like, I thought you were sick.
Yeah. Just,
Okay.
you gotta just let people, because people always time with me. It's like, oh, I thought you had a bad back. Well, yes, but sometimes Keith isn't home and I have to kick a box down the stairs.
Yep.
I'm not like he-manning it, and it's over my weight limit, according to my pain specialist, but sometimes he's not home and I need something done right now. So I will push it to the edge of the stairs and kick it down or
Yep.
drag it down if I have to. Um, but yeah, like I like your attitude. I think you're really cute. I have 2 questions left. And I have to preface it with my little saying I say every week. I'm a huge proponent of work and life balance. I don't think you can do all of one and be healthy or good, because if you're always playing around, you're making money, but if you're always working, you're not mentally healthy or good for yourself or your family or friends or pets. So I always ask everyone, what is it that you do for fun or to unwind?
So back in my corporate life, in my past life, as I joke, work-life balance isn't really achievable for me. And I want to explain what I mean by that. It's more of like a work life. What does today look like? And some days, and I think it goes the same with relationships as well. It's never going to be 100 and 100 out, 50-50, 60. It's going to be some days I wake up and I know I'm going to get 10% of work done. And the other 90% isn't even going to be fun. It's going to be maybe laying in bed and working on my computer, which then my husband does come in. He goes, you realize that's working just because you're not standing up and in your office doesn't mean you're not working when you've done 6 hours on the computer. I'm like, okay, whatever. But it's really just asking myself, what can I do today? One of the things that I used to help with friends of mine when they became parents and they were in my corporate job that I worked is you're not going to make every baseball game and you're not going to make every board meeting. So you need to figure out what's the most important baseball game and what's the most important board meetings. And those are the ones you can't have sacrifice on. And if you can figure that out for yourself, and sometimes that involves asking the question, asking your kiddo, asking your partner, asking your best friend, can I miss this? My best friend, she works very long hours and there's some things that she can't miss. So for me, I have to tell her, this is like a non-negotiable for me. If you miss this, like I'm going to be crushed. Can you please find a way to be there for me for this?
Mhm.
Doctor's appointments. I go to doctor's appointments all the time. I ask my husband to go to like 2 a year. These are non-negotiables for me. If you have a meeting, can you move it? And so, I love that. That is really great. I get a massage while listing on eBay. But I think that's what it looks like for me. It's what are the non-negotiables? And then some days it's I had a deadline for Kidizen that I had to get everything listed by Monday, by December 11th. That's a non-negotiable. I committed in writing. I signed my name that I was going to have all these listings ready to go live scheduled. That's a non-negotiable. So that means on Sunday, if my friends want to go out to the brewery, if I hadn't finished them, I don't get to go. I have to stay and do those listings. And so that to me is what work-life balance looks like.
Okay, but you're still making sure that you're working and relaxing.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't know what your other guests have said. Sometimes it's really hard to stop doing the work when you realize that's where you get, for me, and I think for a lot of people who've chosen to go their own way in terms of whether it's reselling or whatever your own business is, it's hard to stop. And my husband will sometimes have to like take my rolly chair and like roll me out because he's like, honey, you've been working for 11 hours straight and you haven't left and you haven't eaten. And I don't even know if you've had water today. And I'm basically a house plant. Like you have to feed me and water me and put me in some sunshine every once in a while. And so, but it's really hard. And so it's reminding myself every day, if I get run, and I also don't want to burn out because once I'm burnt out, getting back into it is going to take me weeks, if not a month.
Mm-hmm. I personally don't have a problem finding the balance. And that's weird because in the healthcare field, there was none. I worked 100 hours a week and I took care of my people before I took care of myself. And I would go hours without eating, but the girls I took care of ate. They had showers, they had makeup, they went to their doctor's appointments and their school, everything I did for them. I cleaned their house, cooked for them. But I worked 100 hours a week and I didn't take care of myself. I have to say a lot of me not having an issue is having a bullet journal, having to-do lists, having a very, very strict schedule and routine. And I have a mindset of I work from 8 to 6 and that's it. So at 6 o'clock, we're done, except for right now. But I mean, generally speaking, we're done. And we take the evenings off together. But it took a lot of work. When I first started reselling, I did 16-hour days. I did 12-hour days. I worked 7 days a week. There was no balance. I forgot to drink water. I forgot to eat. I have come to this place over the course of 7 years. And it took a lot of conditioning myself and training myself and rethinking and re-looking at life and the way I do things. Which is why it's a hot top, like why I love to preach it and talk it to people. Because if someone who used to love to work 100 hours a week can work 8-hour days and take weekends off and find time to read a book at night, anyone can do it.
Well, and you're the perfect example, right? Because you're living it. You're not just telling somebody, oh, hypothetically, you could do this. You're actually explaining to people not only that you do it, but how to do it, which I have a hard time. People give me advice with absolutely no way to live that advice. So they'll be like, you need to find balance. And I'm like, okay, how? And then they just look at me. Whereas you're like, I use my journal. I'm scheduled. I'm regimented. These are the things that work for me. You're giving very valuable, valid feedback that's able to help every single person who watches your show and every person who follows you. They can say, oh, okay, she's doing it. And this is how she's doing it. And it's not crazy. Like you're not reinventing sliced bread. So we can do it. It's just about committing to it and being willing to commit to it.
Yes. And creating those new routines and habits. And I say this all the time, but it takes 30 days to create a new habit. You have to force yourself to do something for 30 days before it becomes natural. And you can think about that and apply it to many things in your life to understand it. If you don't make your bed in the morning and you want to start making your bed in the morning, you have to consistently remind yourself to go back in there and do it for 30 days. But after the 30th day, it's natural. Your feet hit the floor and you want to make that bed. If you go for walks, if you watch how you eat, if you exercise, if you go to the gym, if you brush your teeth before bed, if you wash your makeup off, if you take a shower first thing in the morning, think about all the things you do on autopilot that maybe you had to force yourself to do for a little while until it became natural.
I agree so wholeheartedly with you.
But yeah, I am living it. I mean, I can just show you this list right here is all the books I read in November while running my own business. I read that many books. That's my favorite pastime. You didn't tell us what your favorite like unwinding pastime is.
Okay, so with some shame, I will tell you, and pride, it's watching reality TV. I read a lot. Reading for me is one of the things. So I read really, 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 really religiously until I was in my mid-20s. And then I stopped. I dropped off completely and wasn't reading at all. I realize now why, because my corporate job got too demanding that my brain was dead when I came home. When my dog passed, he was, like I said, the love of my life. The one thing that I could do to take my mind off of his loss was read. And I laughed to myself when I realized about a month after his passing, I was like, this is the gift he left me with. He knew how much I love to read. This dog, I know I sound like a lunatic that my dog knew things, but I swear he did. He knew how much I love to read, and he knew that that would take my mind off of it. So now I'm back to reading 4, 5, 6 books a month. But I love a good glass of wine and a really good Real Housewives episode.
I can see that about you. And I don't think you're crazy because my hamster just recently passed away. And she waited until November 1st. And I know she waited because Halloween's my favorite holiday. And we watched horror movies together that night with my hamster. And I feel like her gift to me was she didn't want to spoil or mar my favorite holiday in any way. So she waited. She had had a stroke and she had been sick. Rodents are very delicate creatures. They don't live very long and I keep doing it to myself over and over again, knowing what's going to happen, but I love them so much. But I feel like, so I don't think you're crazy because I even told Keith, I'm like, oh, she waited till this morning because she didn't want to ruin my holiday.
And November 1st is Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. So she waited to pass on a very important day. And
yes, and I still talk to her. I call her my ghost ham, and because I used to sing and talk to her, so I still do. Like I'll look over her during a movie and be like, what do you think, Ahsoka?
Do we think we're going to get another one?
We are ready. We are ready. I'm going to go with my Christmas money I get from Keith and his dad to get a new setup. And I'm getting an orange one, and I've already named it Cheeto.
We don't have him or her yet, but we know we're getting her.
Yeah, I'm ready. I waited a whole year after my last one, MC Hamster. We called her Emmy. I waited a whole year until I got Ahsoka.
That's the best name I've ever heard.
My son named her. But I feel really empty because I'm so used to, they only live for Emmy, MC Hamster. She lived for almost 4 years, which was very rare. Little Ahsoka didn't make it until she was 2. But I'm so like I sing and talk. You get it. Your dog was the love of your life. You talk to them all day long. You need their opinion. You need to tell them what you're thinking. You need to make up stupid song lyrics and have someone to make up Christmas songs to and talk to during the movies and share your popcorn with. And I miss it. Are you ready for one?
So we have 2. They're both lunatics.
Oh,
we had one.
Yeah.
We had one that so my boss that I mentioned in the very beginning, who I didn't get along with, the one gift she really gave me, and it's probably one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given, which is ironic. About 2 years before Peanut passed, she said, I'm really worried about you being alone when Peanut passes. And she goes, and Peanut's 11 now, and beagles don't live a long life. And he was a purebred, which I will never do again. I was young when I got him, and we only I would if it was a rescue, but we only rescue now. She's like, I really think he needs a friend. So we adopted Jackson. I don't know what I would have done if I came home to an empty house. Dogs fill your house in this like huge, grandiose way. And I don't know what I would have done. And Jackson was a really good only dog for about 4 or 5 months. He lived it up. He loved being mommy's only apple of her eye. And then we were ready. He was ready for a brother. And so Cashew is just turned 2. He's hell on wheels. He has been scratching at the door to get in for like the entire time. I just heard my husband say, let's let mommy talk. Let's let her have, but they fill your heart. And so I don't know what I would have done at that day coming home if it had been an empty house, because everywhere was a reminder. Their bowls, their toys, their beds, because my dogs are spoiled beyond all measure. They have Barefoot Dreams sweaters. Like they're spoiled beyond all measure. So Which, by the way, if anybody's listening, if you ever thrift Barefoot Dreams sweaters in small or medium for dogs, please hit me up because I will buy them from you. My goal is to collect them all. It's like Pokemon, got to catch them all, got to catch all the Barefoot Dream sweaters for my pups. But it's just, yeah, they fill your heart.
They do. I have one final question for you, and it's a follow-up of the conversation on work-life balance and what you do in your leisure time. I always ask everyone, what you doing this weekend?
If I'm feeling good tomorrow, my goal is we have reservations at there's a theme here with cool bars that I like to go to, with a cool bar that just opened, and we were playing a board game. Our family, my two best friends live with us. And so my family is non-traditional. And we were playing a board game, and one of the things was a dare. And my husband dared me to find a national holiday coming up in the next 10 days that we had to do. And it was National Lager Day. So we're going to drink some beer, and then hoping everyone feels well. And then Sunday is probably going to be a get you know what done day. More of like the family get stuff done. My girlfriend just got all our stuff from moving here from the storage unit. So go through that. What are you doing this weekend?
Tonight is movie night. So we'll be having pizza in front of the TV, and we got hot chocolate. So the horror movie queen will be doing Christmas movies. And then tomorrow we're going to work because it's Q4. We usually take the weekends off, but we tend to work half a day Saturdays from like August through Q4. There's more to do. There's more going on.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably read. And Sundays is traditionally a day we spend with his grandparents, and we go out to dinner and have just like the whole day at their house and just relax.
That sounds wonderful.
I know. I drink beer with his grandfather, who's like 80, and he gets Miller Lights, and they're water. They're terrible beer.
Yeah,
but
it's water with some very, very gentle flavoring.
Yes, but he buys the beer. He keeps it in his house, and his uncle goes every Sunday as well. And his grandfather's all proud. I got us beer. And I'm like, yeah, let's drink beer together. And yeah, I love them. They're my only family because my parents are passed, and my kids are, I'm an empty nester. They live far away near their dad. And so Keith's family is my family. They call me Twinkles. I don't think I've ever said that on YouTube before. But yeah, they call me Twinkles because my name is Star.
Star.
So
That's
it'll
so
be
cute.
It'll be part work, part reading and relaxing, some movies. Keith's got a new video game, which is what he does while I read. We're the perfect couple. Nobody's bothering me because I want to read 10 books a week. And nobody's nagging him for how much he plays video games because we're contented sitting next to each other doing what we love.
Okay, so me and my husband, same exact thing. He plays video games. He did all of Zelda. He just finished Mario. So that's so funny because I tell them that, they're like, your husband plays video games? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, he's at home. He's sitting next to me. He's here. I know where he is. And
he loves it.
And he leaves me alone to read. Like, I'm in a lot of book groups on Facebook. This is a sidetrack, but I'm in a lot of like book groups on Facebook where a lot of the women in there complain that my husband says I read too much, or he talks to me while I'm trying to read. I'm like, girls, find you a man that plays video games and he will never bother you. And the other side of the coin, men complain that a lot of their wives nag at them about how much they play video games. Find you a wife that reads.
Find you a person who respects you, and what you like. I mean, there's boundaries, right? Like if I'm reading for like 20 hours a day, or he's playing video games for 20 hours, you're no longer functioning as a human. That's probably where I'd be like, okay. But if he wants to do that for a couple of hours on the weekends, and I want to do that for a couple of hours on the weekends, or however that looks, anytime someone tells me their insert here, whatever their partner, spouse, husband, wife, however they identify, tries to interrupt what they want to do, I'm like, bye. Run now. The flag is waving. It's white. Leave.
It's red.
The white is me giving up. The red flag was them.
Yeah. Like, no, I totally agree. And then you got to find the balance there too. Like you just said, we got to find time to watch movies together or we go for walks every morning. You got to find the balance to do things with your people, your spouse, your partner, your friends, your pets, your kids, your work, your job, your me time. There's like this whole balance to life you have to find. And I am living it. It's just a struggle bus to find it. It really is.
But you did it.
Yes, hit the thumbs up. By the way, I did edit my YouTube video while we were talking, so you can go on YouTube. This will upload when we're done, and I have Tiffany's Instagram and YouTube, and I put something else. What else did I put? I put your Kidizen and your Poshmark in the description box. So if you're looking for something for Christmas, shop her, especially if you have kids.
The kids stuff on Kidizen is really, really cute and like crazy good prices. So if you have kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, when I tell you it's cute, it's almost all tea collection, which is just the most adorable stuff at like the best prices. And if you send me a note saying you saw me on this, I'll give you an even better deal.
Oh, nice. Thank you for doing that. I got all excited, like, woo! I'm looking at your store.
Yeah.
So it's really cute. There's a little Invisibles pajama set. Oh my goodness. Is that what they're called, that family?
Yes, yes, yes. I was like, what is she talking about? And then I realized you were looking at my Kidizen. Initially, I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. I was like, it's the wine in her glass again.
It's all this alcohol. But yeah, so check out her Kidizen and her Poshmark. Let her know you saw her on my show if you want to go Christmas shopping. Check out her YouTube if you're dealing with any kind of grief. And grief looks different for everyone, and it can be a loss of a pet or a parent. It can be anybody. Anything you've loved. Grief can be the loss of a job or moving.
It can be the loss of anything. It can be a loss of self.
I always include the pets because I love animals, and I have a wildlife menagerie outside that I feed. I don't know if Tiffany, if you know that.
I did not know that.
So most of them are away for the winter because I live up north, but I do have chipmunks, squirrels, raccoons, possums, deer, and all kinds of birds that I feed on my deck all summer and spring into the fall. And then it's a sliding door that's the whole wall. So I have a couch that I can sit and watch them. And so I do love all the animals.
That is so cool.
I know the chipmunks are my favorite.
That would make me really happy to watch. My dogs, on the other hand, not so happy to watch.
No, I know a lot of friends are like, I couldn't do that. And I'm like, well, my hamster seems indifferent because she would sit in front of there. I would put her there for the sunshine and she didn't care. Don't forget Carl. So yes, Karen comes to my true crime listing party on Fridays that I host with List Perfectly. And I was telling her, Keith's grandma has some cats that she feeds, and she now has a possum that comes around that she has named Carl. And Carl has his own food bowl. She feeds Carl.
I'm a fan of Carl already.
Hi, Sancho. Sancho is a wiener dog, if you didn't know.
I did not know that. I also say hi to Sancho.
He's a little black wiener dog. I love him so many. Anyway, I love animals, probably more than I like people.
Mine's not a probably. Mine's a firmly I like animals more than I like people.
So I guess that's the very last thing. Do you have any last words of wisdom for the people?
I'm going to make it really basic. Do what you love and love what you do. And whether that's the people you spend your time with, it's the job you do, or whether it's just reading a book, try to find ways to love life. Because another one of my go-to quote, I have two really go-to quotes. Life is the hardest thing we all have to do, and no one talks about it enough. And two, there's enough sunshine for all of us. So support the people you love. Take a shot. I like that. John just coming in. I don't know if we know John, but if so, I'm all about John's energy. But I just do what you love and like make it easy.
I like that. All right. If you're watching us live, thank you so much for taking the time out today to join us. You have lives and you have important things going on in your work, and you took a break to watch us. So I do appreciate that. And if you're watching the replay, I appreciate you too, because you guys, I always say this, but without you, there'd be no Flippin' Hippos. I would be sitting here talking to my stuffed animals. So I love you guys. Thank you for watching so much. Thank you, Tiffany, for coming on. I really appreciate you being here. Tell your friends that you love them. Yep, that's going to be what I'm going to tell you to do this weekend. Find somebody you haven't told. And if you have a hard time with the word love like I do, I like to tell people I appreciate you. Not everyone is able to the emotions. So I like to just remind myself once in a while, let my friends know, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Because sometimes that sounds good coming from somebody, right? So take some time this weekend to take care of yourself, your family, your friends, your pets. And If it's as simple as going for a walk or just taking a long bath, do something for yourself. And until next time, be productive, make some money, but take care of yourself and your friends and everyone else. The holidays, we're all feeling gushy. So I love you
Can I
guys.
say one last thing?
Yes.
Thank you for having me on.
Mhm.
But more importantly, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. That actually means a lot sometimes. I mean, it really can change the world. Say it to your server next time you're at dinner. Say it to somebody on customer service on the phone because they don't hear it. That's my favorite thing to tell people. So go have a wonderful weekend, guys. Bye.
Thank you for having me.